In regard to China, when Treasury Secretary Mnuchin labeled China as a currency manipulator after they actually devalued their currency, it was regarded by the Chinese leadership as a public, quote, slap in the face. But it appears as though China is manipulating their currency, correct? And if this charge is accurate, how will that affect future trade talks?
Well, I mean, the way to offset the trade and the trade taxes that we're putting on them, they can lower the yuan would offset the effect of the 10% tariffs that will come in September. So the Chinese are well aware that the rest of the world is watching what they're doing with the yuan. It's down to 7 points. If it goes any lower than that, this is something the United Nations can get involved with, because they don't want large countries manipulating their currencies, because it affects everybody. It not only affects the United States, but it affects India and Europe as well.
So when that happens, again, you kind of stated it as a negotiation tactic. The president said, all right, because you are basically not keeping your agreements, Chinese, you basically agreed to do certain things and you have changed it. That's not good when you're negotiating. So that's what the U.S. said to China. And the president came back and said, because of that, we're going to impose 10% higher tariff on what I think we talked about it last Friday, $300 billion worth of additional goods, I believe. The Chinese comes back and, as you say, then take and cut the value of their yuan, which effectively eliminates the hardship of that 10% tariff. So
Correct.
Now we're back to where we were to begin with. What do you think, from that perspective, Bill, if the pressure on the Chinese by the 10% tariff, if they can alleviate it by lowering their currency, which they did, we're back now to basically where we were maybe last week at this point. What more do you think that the United States is able to do, and what likely may we see in negotiations here going forward?
Well, you have to remember, we're only talking a few years to the election. 2020 is when the election occurs. And you have to remember that China is a communist country where they don't really have elections. So 2 years to them, waiting 2 years to see who the new president's going to be is like a nanosecond. They're willing and ready to take the pain, even if he raises it to 25% tariffs on all of Chinese products. The Chinese are willing to take that bet all the way through the election. So, and I think they're also going to manipulate their currency to offset it if he does increase the taxes. So, in the end, really the consumer pays. If corporations have to pay more taxes on the goods that they're getting from China, they're just going to pass those increases on to consumers. So ultimately, it's going to hurt the American consumer.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you hear what's happening, because you see the element of a political strategy in here, and what Bill just said, which was very true. Communist leadership don't stand for elections like we do. They are there with the control of an iron fist. They're going to be there, and anybody who rises up in China, be it Hong Kong or any other place, they will put them down ruthlessly. But they are looking at the United States. They know an election is coming up. And when they decide not to buy agricultural products, who are they hurting? The red section of our country, the farming and the agricultural section that has been very conservative. They are playing a multi-level strategy game here. Just need to keep all of this in mind, because these are the kind of things that help to make that market go up and down.